ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the Scoreboard. Yes, happy Friday to everyone. Hope we're all having a good day here. It is a wonderful Friday. Yes, we have so much to go over today. I mean, we have high school football, high school soccer, we got college football, we got the NFL, we have NHL action, NBA action. The Major League Baseball MVPs were given out for the American League, the National League. You got Formula One coming up this weekend. The NASCAR award show is going to be this weekend as well. I mean, if you are a sports fan, this is the weekend for you. I mean, every weekend is really the weekend for you, if we're being honest with ourselves here, because it is that time of year, the fall, getting into the winter, a lot of good things going on in the world of sports. Last night, we had Thursday night football, and we were actually treated to a pretty decent game. I know everybody was locked in watching the second half of that game as the snow pounded down in Cleveland for pretty much the entirety of the second half there. Game ended in I wouldn't say blizzard-like conditions, but definitely a lot of snow to the point where it was sticking on the field, and the NFL was doing some things with the yard lines, and we'll talk about that a little bit. I'm not sure really how I feel about it, but we'll talk about it a little bit. We'll also get into the high school sports scene. Tonight, we have round 2 of high school football playoffs. Yes, it is round 2. We also have just one state championship game in soccer. Now, we talked about it yesterday, but just a reminder to you that all of the soccer state championship games are going to take place in the Mecklenburg County Sports Complex down in Matthews. So if you're interested in heading out to watch some state championship games, you got soccer coming up tonight and all day tomorrow. Yes, we are going to tell you who's going to be playing and when. We'll also get into some previewing of what we have coming up this weekend. It's a big NFL weekend. We are getting later and later in the regular season here, starting to really understand where teams are going to be lined up when it comes to playoff seeding, who's winning the divisions, things like that. The Carolina Panthers back in action after the bye week that they had on last week. So they come back from Germany, they have a bye week, and then now we have to play the Chiefs. Yeah, it's going to be an interesting game for sure. It's going to be at Bank of America Stadium too. Keep that in mind. The Chiefs coming to town. I don't know if we're going to see the same thing that we saw last year. If you remember when the Cowboys came to town and the Panthers were not doing all that great, Cowboys fans kind of took over Bank of America Stadium. Now, I don't know if we're going to see the same issue in the second half of this year. We do have one more win at this point in the season than we did last year. Actually, one more win in total than we had last season so far, only ending with 2 last year. Panthers already up to 3. And I guess you can call that improvement. There have been some good showings by the Panthers, but Bryce Young be under center, and we'll see kind of what the Panthers decide to do with that. So let's get into things here. We're going to go into the high school sports scene, starting off with the high school football playoffs. It is round 2 of the high school football playoffs. And like I said, these are going to be going on for quite some time. I believe the final game is going to be right around December 20th or so. So we got a lot of high school football remaining in the season and a lot of playoffs to go over. So we'll start things off in the 1A bracket. Like we've mentioned in the past, there's not that many schools that are still in our listening area in some of the lower divisions here. including 1A. Now, we do have one in the playoffs, and that would be Christ the King High School, the 19 seed of the playoffs. They are in the second round playing number 3 Murphy. Yeah, that's going to be a tough game for Christ the King High School. A reminder for you, Christ the King High School down in Huntersville, well within our listening area, they have been having a lot of good showings when it comes to the fall sports. Now, maybe not making the deepest runs, but consistently making playoff appearances and at least getting a win or two in some cases. So congratulations, Christ the King, having a good fall season. Game 2, round 2 of the playoffs for Christ the King will be taking place later on tonight at 7:30. Let's move on to the 2A bracket as we continue to talk about schools that are in the area that are going to be competing in these playoffs. Same situation in the 2A bracket that we have in the 1A bracket. There's only one school within our listening area that are in the playoffs still that have made it to the second round. That's going to be Community School of Davidson. Yes, CSD is in the second round. They're taking on number 7, Mount Pleasant High School, Community School of Davidson. CSD is a 10 seed. Pretty strong win, I'd say, in round 1 as they beat Bandy's High School 42-6. But now you're playing a little bit better competition. Mount Pleasant, by the way, just snuck by in round 1 between them and West Lincoln. Final score in that game was 36-35. And Mount Pleasant actually went into the fourth quarter down a little bit. They were down 1, I believe, in the fourth quarter. Both teams end up scoring, but the 2-point conversion gets the win for Mount Pleasant as they moved on to the second round. The 1 seeds are still alive in both the 1A and 2A bracket, by the way. In the 1A bracket, it's Mount Airy High School. And in the 2A bracket, it is Reedsville, the 1 seed. Moving on to the 3A bracket. This is where we have a couple of more schools that are in the area that are in these playoffs. I want to start with what I believe to be the big one in our area, and that is the game between number 3 Hickory High School and number 14 Statesville High School. Yes, we've talked about these two schools extensively throughout the regular season. Now, just a reminder for you, Hickory and Statesville ended the regular season playing against each other. So they played only about 3 weeks ago. Keep that in mind. The final score in that game, Hickory did end up getting the victory 35-20. That game also, a couple of weeks ago, was also at Hickory's home field. This playoff game, same thing. It is going to be at Hickory's stadium. So Statesville High School, after the good regular season, they've got a tough test here going against number 3 Hickory. 7 o'clock tonight, it'll be number 3 Hickory High School and number 14 Statesville High School. We're going to head to our first commercial break of the program, ladies and gentlemen. We got a lot more ahead of us. Don't go anywhere. We're back after this. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We are on the scoreboard here on this Friday, getting ready for the weekend. Quick update, I guess, is what I'll call it. I forgot to mention this in the first segment, but this episode of the Scoreboard, once again, it has been recorded at an earlier date. Unfortunately, I won't be able to take your phone calls today. I know it's a couple of days in a row. I'm sorry. I want to get back to that. We will get back to that here shortly. Just give us a little bit of time. Give us a little leeway here, and we'll end up getting some phone calls back on the Scoreboard. We were in the middle of discussing the high school football playoffs and high school playoffs in general. I want to talk about the soccer games that are coming up this weekend, but we ended things off in the 3A bracket talking about Hickory High School and Statesville High School, who will be squaring off later on tonight. By the way, the 1 seed is still alive in the 3A bracket. Let's move on to the 4A bracket. Obviously, a little bit of the bigger schools here, if you know how the rankings are and how they get classified in North Carolina high school football. The bigger schools here, one of them being Huff High School, number 5 seed, who is definitely within our listening area. Huff High School had a good regular season, going 9-1, with that one loss coming in game 1 of the season, 45-44 loss against Northwestern High School. So I'll tell you what, Huff had a very good year. That's why they got the 5 seed, but their competition is Independence High School. Yes, now if you remember last year, Independence, they didn't get a good drawing in the playoffs. They were the 23 seed going into the 4A playoffs. Well, they made it all the way to the regional round as the 23 seed. This year, Independence High School is the 21 seed. So, a little bit better draw in the playoff seeding for Independence, but not a team that should be taken lightly at all. Independence, a once powerhouse, I'll call them, a once powerhouse of the high school football scene here in this area. They're still good, don't get me wrong. It's just the seeding that they got was not very good. Only one loss in the regular season for Independence High School as well. So something to keep an eye on. That's going to be a really interesting game. Number 5, Huff High School. Number 21, Independence High School. Another school in our area that's going to be playing tonight, Mooresville High School. And we've been talking about Mooresville pretty much since, we've been talking about them as a serious contender pretty much after the first week of the season. If you remember back then, we had Langston Wirtz Jr. join us on the program with the Charlotte Observer, and he told us that Mooresville is probably going to be one of the teams to beat in the 4A bracket this year. And that goes to show with the record that they put up. They are the 6th seed in these playoffs, and they are, they had a very decisive win in game 1 against Alexander Central with a 70-0 victory. Yeah, Mooresville's got a good team over there. Their opponent is going to be number 11, Northwest Guilford. Yes, Northwest Guilford Vikings is going to be the game. It's going to be at Mooresville High School, and we're expecting kickoff to be around 7 p.m. Once again, it's still early in all of these playoffs. The 1 seed is still alive in every bracket. Excuse me, as I get a little something in my throat there. I don't have my water near me. We'll have to take care of that during the commercial break. But that is the high school football scene for you. A lot of interesting games, and as always, if you're interested in supporting those local high schools, get out there and watch those games. There's some good football that's being played. Now, football is not the only local sport that we have going on that's in the playoffs. Coming up on, tonight and tomorrow, actually, at 7 p.m. tonight, it is the 2A high school men's soccer championship game. Yes, we are in the state championship game for soccer. The men's soccer finals are taking place today and tomorrow. Only one game today, and then we have a big slate coming up tomorrow. So coming up tonight at 7 p.m. is the 2A championship game between Clinton High School and Southwestern Randolph High School. Saturday, we have the 4A championship kicking us off at 11 a.m. It'll be Wakefield High School versus Marvin Ridge High School. Marvin Ridge, just outside our listening area within the Charlotte city limits. That game is going to be Saturday at 11 a.m. The 1A championship game will be between Mount Airy and Hobton High School coming up Saturday at 2:30, and we will finish the night off with the 3A championship game Western Alamance High School takes on Ashboro High School. I believe those two games were both the 1 seeds moved on. We talked about that yesterday, how not many of these brackets went chalk. It was really all over the place. There were a lot of 1 seeds that got eliminated early. So it was a very interesting playoffs. One thing to keep in mind, I'm going to say it again, all of these games, even the Friday game, as well as the 3 Saturday games, are going to be taking place at the Mecklenburg County Sportsplex in Matthews. So if you're looking to go watch some high school state championship games, that is where the games are going to be. Let's move on a little bit here and get into some Major League Baseball, because there were some MVP awards that were handed out. No surprise, really. We talked about it a lot during the MLB regular season. It's probably going to be Shohei Ohtani getting the MVP in the National League and Aaron Judge in the American League. Although, I will say, Bobby Witt, if Aaron Judge didn't have the season that he had, Bobby Witt would have been honored for an incredible season that he had. But, Aaron Judge was just a little bit better. He had the home runs and the average. Bobby Witt had the average. He had some stolen bases as well, but the home run numbers just weren't up where Aaron Judge's were. And for Shohei Ohtani, it is another unanimous MVP award. Shohei Ohtani was chosen unanimously for the 3rd time in his career. That is absolutely incredible. He is the first player to be chosen unanimously for an MVP award in baseball ever. He's the first player to have 3 of them unanimously. When he's won the award, nobody's ever voted against him. Nobody else in baseball has ever done that. That is a feat to be held right there. He joins Frank Robinson as the only player to win 1 MVP in both leagues, and he's the first to win back-to-back since Miguel Cabrera did it in 2012 and 2013. And one thing to keep in mind with the back-to-back is it was in 2 different leagues. Last year, it was for the American League. This year's for the National League and the Dodgers. So an absolutely incredible season for Shohei Ohtani. And if you listen to Good Morning LKN this morning, me and Justin and Mamie talked a little bit about the MVP award in Shohei Ohtani. If he continues the path that he's on and he comes back next year and he pitches, I would not be opposed to opening the door for the conversation of one of, if not the greatest baseball player of all time, because you got to think about the competition that he's doing this against. Everybody is a real professional athlete doing this full time, as opposed to maybe not, you know what I'm trying to say. Anyway, the MVP awards were given out. Aaron Judge in the American League, Shohei Ohtani in the National League. Ohtani maybe possibly being considered for greatest player of all time. I'm not saying just yet. Just wait a little bit. Let's pump the brakes. But not out of the question, that's for sure. Other awards in baseball were also given away. Now, I forgot to go over it with you guys yesterday, so let's talk a little bit about it today. Obviously, we just said Aaron Judge, Shohei Ohtani, the MVPs in the American and National League. The AL Cy Young Award was Tarek Skubal of the Detroit Tigers. Yes, the Detroit Tigers. And I think interestingly here, the National League Cy Young Award winner was Chris Sale. You probably recognize the name. He's been around for a while. He's 35 years old, but he had a career high in wins and an MLB best 2.3 ERA. He led the National League in strikeouts with 225. in 177 and 2/3 innings pitched. Now, Chris Sale had actually said that he was considering retiring after this year, but being a Cy Young Award winner, I think he might have another season or two in him. So we'll see what they decide to do there, what Chris Sale has in store for us. But we do have to go to our next commercial break of the day. We are halfway through the program today. Don't go anywhere, ladies and gentlemen. We're back after this. And welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. It is segment number 3 here on the Scoreboard. No phone calls today. This episode was pre-recorded, but we will get back on the phone lines as soon as we can. We're going to talk a little football now. Yeah, we actually started the show talking about football, but we were down in the high school level. I want to turn around here and get into the NFL, as last night we had some pretty good football, is what I'll call it. True football, real football, gritty football, as the Pittsburgh Steelers headed to Cleveland to take on the 2-8 Browns with famous Jameis and his turnover shack. His turnovers are the best. Go buy some of his turnovers. Well, I'll tell you what, Jameis Winston, he had a pretty good game. Not great, but considering the conditions and considering what both teams had to deal with, I would say Jameis Winston fared pretty well in this game, going 18 of 27 for 219 yards and 1 interception that honestly I thought it was going to cost the Browns the game. But man, what a game it was. The first half was okay. We went into halftime with Cleveland up 10-3, and then in the second half, it happened. The snow started coming down, and we had a nice snow game on Thursday Night Football, which turned things upside down. There were plenty of points scored in the fourth quarter. Actually, 27 points scored in the fourth quarter between these two teams. In total, 30 points scored in the second half of this matchup. But the Browns and the Steelers faced off, and the Steelers, man, they fell in this one. They lose the game 29-19. Now, you look at the standings in the AFC North, it's close. It is. I mean, the Steelers have a game lead over the Ravens right now. But when you look at the matchups that they've had and who's played and who's won and who they still have to play, the Steelers ended up beating the Ravens in game 1 of their season series, which is only 2 games, by the way. Remember that 18-16 game? It was a mess. Yeah. So technically, even if the Ravens win on Monday night, which the Ravens play Monday Night Football this week, you may not have realized that. It is a Monday night game between the Ravens and the Chargers, which should be a good game. But if the Ravens end up winning that game, they're still going to be behind the Steelers in the standings. With only 1 game played between them, the Steelers currently holding the tiebreaker. That's how that shakes out. But, things could change as you move through the season because the Ravens and the Steelers have to play each other one more time. And it's actually coming up in a few weeks. So keep that in mind when you look at the standings and, who's in, who's out, who's ranked where. Some games to keep an eye on this weekend. Obviously, the Chiefs and the Panthers is going to be one that has a lot of people in the area tuned in. Chiefs coming to town. They're coming fresh off of a loss to the Buffalo Bills, who are on a bye week this week. But the Chiefs will play the Panthers. It's going to be a 1 o'clock game, by the way. So mark your calendars. There is a total of 1 game this weekend where both teams that are playing each other have winning records. Yes, one. And that is the Ravens and the Chargers. Now, there are a few games where one team is 500 and the other team is above 500, like the 49ers and the Packers. The Packers 7-3, Niners are 5-5. You have the Cardinals at 6-4, the Seahawks at 5-5. They're playing each other. And then the Eagles are 8-2, and the Rams are 5-5. So there are some decent matchups here this week, but nothing where it really pops off the page at me and says, this one is appointment television. I must tune in to this game. Now, me personally, as a New York Football Giants fan, I am more than stoked that Tommy DeVito is going to be the quarterback for the New York Giants. And real quick, I do want to touch on the New York Giants as Daniel Jones went to the podium the other day and, well, he said a few words, nothing bad. He was, thankful and all that, but he read a prepared statement and it was painfully obvious that he was reading it. Obviously, Daniel Jones did not take many public speaking classes as he was going through high school and college because, man, he just looked down and read the statement. That's pretty much all it was. And, the end of an era in New York. Many would like to call it the end of an error in New York because, well, they gave that man quite a bit of money to be terrible. One playoff appearance under Daniel Jones. Somehow they won a playoff game. I still don't understand how that happened. But the 2-8 Giants are going to be at home hosting the 4-6 Buccaneers. And one thing I want to go over with real quick with you guys is the Buccaneers in terms of the NFC South standings. Right now, the Falcons lead the NFC South, but they are on a bye week, so everything's going to be caught up here. We'll call it a 1.5 lead over the Buccaneers. If the Buccaneers are able to win this weekend against the Giants, which I kind of expect them to, they'll be a game behind in the NFC South. And as you guys know, I did pick the Buccaneers to come out of the NFC South as the division winner this year. I don't know what it is, man. I like Baker Mayfield and I like that team. What are you going to do about it, right? It's just a personal preference there. But some interesting football games coming up on Sunday. Sunday night game, Eagles at the Rams. And then we got a game on Monday night. The Ravens head to Los Angeles to play the Chargers. No, they don't head to San Diego. No more San Diego Chargers. I know it's unfortunate. I love the San Diego Chargers just as much as the next person, but they're in LA now. So what are you really going to do about it? I want to get into a little bit of news that I've seen over the past couple of days. We did some news yesterday as well, especially talking about the surgery that Frederick Anderson, the goaltender for the Carolina Hurricanes, is going to have to undergo. The surgery apparently was scheduled for today. Still no word on how it went. I'm assuming all went good. If we hear something, then maybe it'll be safe to assume that all did not go well. But I do want to get into some things that are in the news, and as we always do, we'll get into some things that happened on this day in sports history. But before we do any of that, we got to get to our final commercial break of the week. Yeah, final one of the week. It's Friday, ladies and gentlemen. Woo, boy. We got a good weekend planned in front of us. So we'll go over some things to get you set for the weekend, talk about some news, go over this day in sports history, and send you off into the weekend. We'll be right back, everyone. And final segment, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, welcome back to the Scoreboard. A reminder for you, this episode of the Scoreboard was recorded at an earlier date. Unfortunately, unable to take your phone calls because of that, but we still got plenty to talk about, and we have been talking about quite a bit. If you missed any of the program and you're interested in going back and hearing what we've been talking about, a lot of football talk, a lot of talk about high school playoffs, go to wherever you get us on social media, whether it's YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, X, the WSIC News app, you can find all of our programs there, including this one, and you can find the podcast version wherever you get your podcasts. So go ahead and check it out if you missed any of the program. We're going to start the final segment here by talking about some things that are in the news. Man, the Tampa Bay Rays may be in trouble. Apparently, the city of St. Petersburg City Council reversed their course yesterday, and this was late yesterday, on the $23 million that were set to help with the repairs of the Tropicana Field roof, which was shedded to pieces, if you remember, during Hurricane Milton. Now, the field is not playable. There's no roof. There's water damage. There's extensive repairs that need to be placed on the field. And it's reported that it wasn't even expected for the field to be ready for 2026, which, man, that is something. The report is the extensive repairs cannot be finished before the 2026 season, as was shown in the city documents. Now, the Tampa Bay Rays do have a contingency plan here. They signed a deal with the New York Yankees to play the season in the Yankees spring training facility, which is in Tampa. It's Steinbrenner Field, or George Steinbrenner Field, I believe. Which is interesting to me because the Tampa Bay Rays are actually going to be playing in Tampa Bay. And the statement that was made by Rob Manfred when he said, "We are committed to the fans of Tampa Bay." The team doesn't even play in Tampa Bay. They play in St. Petersburg. So just some funny words that are said. Pretty funny. Anyway, I don't know what's going to happen here. There's been rumblings that the Rays could be moving. So we'll see what ends up happening. We will keep an eye on it and monitor everything. And we'll see. I don't know what happens to the Tampa Bay Rays. Maybe they're no longer in St. Petersburg in a couple of years. Maybe they're no longer in Tampa Bay area, the greater Tampa Bay area. Maybe they're not even in Florida after this year. Who knows? Now, one thing about this is that the plans for the new ballpark, which is supposed to open in 2029, it's in jeopardy right now. So a lot of problems when it comes to the Tampa Bay Rays due to Hurricane Milton. And I mean, Hurricane Milton sped this up. The Rays were in trouble before. We've been hearing rumblings about a new stadium. Are they going to move? Are they going to be in St. Petersburg, Tampa Bay? Where are they going to play? Then they found a location, and now I don't even know if it's going to happen. So that's something that's on the docket here for the MLB to take care of. Another thing that's in the news is Andretti Global. Michael Andretti and his bid to join Formula One could become a General Motors bid. Yes, we are expecting for Andretti Global to be on the F1 starting grid in the near future, which apparently it might not be until 2028, maybe 2026. There's a lot of dates being thrown around with this, but it does look like eventually Andretti is going to be a GM-powered car on the F1 grid. So definitely interesting as Formula One makes their way to Las Vegas this weekend. Yeah, the Las Vegas Grand Prix is set to take place. Get this. It is in the United States, right? It's in our area. It starts at 10 p.m. local time, which means if you're interested, it's not going to start until 1 a.m. on November 24th. So it's 1 a.m. Sunday morning, I guess, because it changes, or late Saturday night if you're wanting to say that. Saturday into Sunday is when the race is, but it's 10 o'clock Western time, 1 a.m. Eastern time. Man, I don't know why they decided to do that, but it does stink. It does. A little bit of NHL stuff for you. Last night, the Carolina Hurricanes were in action against the New Jersey Devils. Spencer Martin was in net for Carolina, and things did not go all that well, as the Hurricanes fall to the Devils by a final score of 4-2. Spencer Martin didn't have the best showing. He didn't look great. 21 shots against, 17 saves. That's a tough one. 2 power play goals. Obviously, it's not all the goaltender's fault, but it's not the best showing from Spencer Martin. And we talked about it yesterday. We know Frederik Andersen, what's going on with him, a lower body injury that requires surgery, out 3 to 4 months. I mean, Carolina's got a good team this year. And it's evident when you look at the standings. They are 14-5, just under 20 games into the season here, leading the Metropolitan Division. They're actually tied with the Devils now, but they have 3 less games played than the Devils, which is 6 more points that you could score on your record. By points percentage, Carolina is ahead of the Devils, so something to keep in mind there. But the Hurricanes, the best team in the Metropolitan Division right now, no surprise there. We knew they were going to be a really good program again this year. The only surprise to me is the fact that they continue to ignore the goaltending issue, and I don't understand it. You need great goaltending, timely goaltending to win the Stanley Cup. And I just don't know if Peter Kochetkov and Freddie Andersen and now Spencer Martin, I don't know if they're going to be able to deliver that throughout the course of the season. And more importantly, when we get to the playoffs. We talk about it a lot. Some of the teams in the NHL, in the NFL, in the NBA, the regular season doesn't matter to them. And we talked about it a little bit earlier this week with the Bills having beat the Chiefs. It's like, oh man, everybody's losing their mind because the Bills beat the Chiefs. And I'm sitting here like, yeah, let's pump the brakes on that a little bit. It's the regular season. Those 2 teams are going to the playoffs. Let's see what happens when they meet each other in the playoffs. Then we'll really be able to celebrate and whatnot. But I understand you knock off an undefeated Chiefs team. It's fine. Celebrate and all. But anyway, for the Carolina Hurricanes, show me what you do in the playoffs. Yeah, cool. You're having a great regular season. And obviously seeding is important, and having a good regular season is important. That way you get home ice advantage in the playoffs, but you still have to win. We saw home ice advantage not work out for Carolina plenty of times over the past, going on 5 years now that this team has been very competitive. So we'll see what happens with the Carolina Hurricanes. One more piece of news before we get into this day in sports history. Caitlin Clark is in the news. She is part of an ownership group that is trying to bring the National Women's Soccer League to Cincinnati, the NWSL. Yeah, a little interesting. So Caitlin Clark, as much as people like to talk about the salaries and how little the WNBA makes, Caitlin Clark is kind of exempt from that because of how much she gets for her promotions, her advertising, her marketing, like everything that she does on the side. She has deals with shoes and things like that. So interesting to see that already Caitlin Clark on the ownership group for a bunch of people who are trying to bring NWSL, the National Women's Soccer League, to Cincinnati. Let's move on to this day in sports history. We got a few good ones for you, so I want to make sure that we give some time to it. On this day, 2016, the Las Vegas Golden Knights were revealed to be the expansion team for the NHL. 2015, Kyle Busch won his first NASCAR Cup Series championship after breaking his leg earlier in the season. Say thank you to the playoffs for that being a possibility. And then we got 1987. Dale Earnhardt won the NASCAR Winston Cup. And one more. On this day, 1986, he's been in the news recently. A 20-year-old Mike Tyson becomes the youngest heavyweight champion in boxing history when he stopped title holder Trevor Berbick in the second round of the World Boxing Championship title fight. That's going to be it for the week, ladies and gentlemen. I hope you enjoyed listening to the Scoreboard. I'll be back Monday, same time, same place. Until then, have a good weekend. See ya.